Welcome to the selected ones. Be cautious how you treat others. Some of them are not human. They're repercussions. That's not simply a quotation. That is a warning label. The universe smacks selected ones. However, most individuals are too arrogant or blind to read it. Now, here's a fact that will set your spirit up neurologically. The human brain records rejection and emotional suffering in the same manner that it processes physical harm. Thus, disrespecting a chosen one is more than simply hurting sentiments. They are tearing their own spiritual ligaments. And the karma strikes you like a torn ACL on a spiritual level. Most people believe that karma is a mythical boomerang that floats in the sky and returns after 3 to 5 business years. Wrong. Sometimes karma does not fly around. It strides in, grins, takes your hand, and says, "Hello, I'm here to love or ruin you." The option is yours. That is the one you have picked. You are not just a person. You are a spiritual pop quiz in human form. You are the last checkpoint before individuals destroy themselves into obscurity. You manifest in people's life as an open gateway to healing, development, and spiritual ascent. So what do most people do? They kick the door, light the home on fire, and then scream, "Why is my life going apart?" Today, we're delving into the reality they never saw coming. You picked one to walk karma, not to punish or destroy, but to reflect and expose. To finalize, you are the test they longed for, but failed. Let's speak about why you are the last grace before judgment, and how your presence alone becomes their most important decision point. Buckle up, for your quiet, walk away, or even laughing will never be the same after this. Number 1, do not penalize them. You replicate the phrase they previously picked. You do not penalize them. You do not curse them. You do not even move a finger. However, the minute they meet paths with you, their existence begins to unravel. Why? Because you are a living mirror of the energy they radiate. You aren't their karma. You're the mirror, forcing them to confront the karma they caused with their own hands. When someone lies, betrays, mocks, or uses you, what they are really doing is signing a spiritual contract. And the small print states, "Whatever you do to this soul, you will face it in equal or greater measure soon." Most individuals are used to getting away with harming others, so they figure you will be no different. However, when they target a selected one, they activate a law that does not react to drama. It reacts to vibrations. And your vibration is consistent because you are intimately tuned with truth. When someone breaks your trust, you become a walking scale. The equilibrium changes and ramifications begin to unravel. They assume you're passive, too quiet, and will let it slip. They don't comprehend that your quiet isn't a sign of weakness. It is not your judgment. Universal. Your responsibility is not to fight back. Your responsibility is to remain silent and believe in the truth as it emerges. It always does. After the lies, gaslighting, and betrayal, they begin to lose stuff. Peace and chances encourage connections. Why? Because when they mistreated you, they moved away from heavenly protection, and the lack of such protection is evident. You did not destroy them. They picked their own demise. The time they attempted to play God in your life. And now they have to sit in the mess they made. Not because you wanted them harm, but because you bore a spiritual burden. They underestimated. That is what it means to be walking karma, not as punishment. The proof. You are proof that the cosmos was watching the whole time. Number 2, your presence reveals their unhealed soul without saying anything. People around you might feel vulnerable even if you don't say anything. Your energy alone removes the disguise off their spirit. That's the trouble about being picked. Your presence sheds light on what others fight hard to keep concealed. You go into a room, and people feel awkward, judgmental, or even angered, even if you haven't said anything. It is not because you are doing something incorrectly. It's because your energy embodies truth. And truth naturally makes falsehoods unpleasant. Most individuals have formed their lives around performance. They wear phony grins, deliver scripted phrases, and embellish their wounds with filters and diversions. But when you arrive there, everything falls apart. You don't put up with artificial enthusiasm, and you don't understand how to play along merely to maintain the peace without trying. You cause others to doubt themselves. They begin to feel tiny and vulnerable, as if something inside of them is being watched not by you, but by their own conscience. You do not judge others, but you do mirror them. You are like spiritual glass. When others are around you, they reveal their true selves. And for others, this is a scary experience. They favor people who lie to them, relationships that reinforce their dysfunction, and situations that allow them to remain numb. But you are disrupting it. Your presence reminds them of their job. They've escaped the anguish. They have not healed the truth. They have silenced. So, rather of developing, they lash out. They project and gossip. They say you're too much or too deep. But, deep down, they understand the reality. Your brightness bothers the darkness they've reconciled with. You are not the issue. You are evidence that they have settled and stopped progressing. And it is what worries them the most. Because if you can be so genuine, honest, and yet walk with grace, they have no justification to be phony. That is why your presence is disturbing. You are not criticizing their character. You are waking their consciousness. Number 3, you are the unskippable last boss in their spiritual test. Some individuals have spent their entire lives avoiding responsibility. They lied, twisted, and disappeared. People used charm as a weapon and walked away from every difficult lesson before it caught up with them. But then they met you, and something changed. The tricks have ceased working. The manipulation was ineffective. The regular escape routes were blocked. This is because you are more than simply another person going through their lives. You are the last test. They cannot cheat their way past this one. When you entered their lives, they had already begun to apply what they had learned. But instead of confronting them, they continued to skip steps, cut shortcuts, and blame others. Then you showed up with truth rather than judgment. You didn't play any games. You did not entertain dysfunction. You brought out honesty, emotional depth, spiritual maturity, and genuine love. The sort that pushes you to develop or leave. Because of this, being near you pushed them to face their true selves. This is why so many individuals either drastically transform after meeting you, or they spiral. There is no intermediate ground. You provide a kind of energy that either drives development or exposes stagnation. They may either rise to the occasion or disintegrate under the weight of their own inexperience. That is what makes you the last boss. Not because you are superior to anybody, but because your energy is the last checkpoint before their karma catches up. They were given one more chance to level up and treat others properly, to react with love rather than control, and to choose development over ego. When they botched it, there was no second chance. Because after you, the lesson becomes more severe. The universe stopped delivering grace and began sending penalties. That is why their lives began to collapse. It was not your fault. It was their reluctance to develop that caused the final exam to appear with your face. They squandered the potential to stop the pattern with you. They refused to pass, not because they were unable to do so. Number 4, they didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves. They may have been when they lost you. It wasn't just the loss of a relationship. It was the end of a future they would never touch again. You weren't just a friend, lover, or presence in their lives. You were a portal, a rare alignment, a precious moment in time when the universe gave them a chance to become someone bigger, not only by being with you, but also by being pushed, inspired, and stretched by your energy into a version of themselves they didn't know was possible. You didn't simply adore them, you noticed them. The raw version, underneath the ego, with the scars and performances. And it worried them since faking becomes more difficult when someone sees you. They didn't realize, however, that being seen by you was not the same as being exposed. It was an invitation to develop, heal, and evolve into a version of oneself capable of breathing without all of the masks. But rather of rising to the occasion, They fled, or worse, attempted to take you down with them. When that didn't work, they attempted to persuade themselves that you were the issue, that you were very passionate, too deep, or too much. They used words to soften the blow of what they had lost, but the reality never left. It remained in the stillness, in the empty spaces, in the fact that life no longer aligns for them as it did when you were present. They can now feel it. The emptiness, the squandered chance, the peculiar feeling that something once in a lifetime had gone through their fingers. What hurts the hardest is knowing there's no turning back. That potential version of themselves existed only in the company of someone like you. And now that you're gone, so is the chronology. They didn't just lose you. They lost access to a future that they will never have again. Number 5. You are the punishment that appears disguised as grace. You entered their lives softly, with an open heart, clear intentions, and a love that did not need small print. You imparted knowledge freely. You gave patience. They did not earn. You brought tranquility into rooms that were accustomed to commotion and healing to individuals who only knew how to hurt. You were quiet, genuine, and present, the type of presence that most people don't notice until it's gone. And there was the issue. They assumed your tenderness meant you could be taken for granted. They mistaken heavenly grace for emotional weakness. But what they didn't realize, and what their ego prevented them from realizing, was that your presence was more than simply compassion. It was a final chance, a miraculous detour, a celestial safety net designed to grab them before they fell. You weren't just a human. You represented compassion in action. You were the type of love that arrives just as the lesson is about to end badly. And when they rejected, disregarded, deceived, or mistreated you, they did more than simply hurt your emotions. They closed the door on something divine sent after you. The energy shifts, the grace lifts, and so does the protection that accompanied them. Because of your presence, evaporates. Life does not feel quite the same. They used to make the same actions, but now they backfire. The support they had began to erode since what they lost was more than simply a connection. They lost their alignment. When someone spits on a heavenly gift, the cosmos does not take it lightly. And you were the present. Whether they confess it or not, you did not come to punish. That isn't your role. You came to provide a new route, a redemptive one. However, when they ridiculed it, the offer expired. Not out of bitterness, but rather out of balance. The universe can't keep offering what people misuse, so it withdraws the gift, not as retribution, but as closure. You were not the issue. You were the answer. But now you're gone, and the door you once held open has been permanently shut. Number 6. They did not injure you. They authored their own demise in your name. They felt they were merely dealing with another kind of person, so they could deceive, speak down, ignore, and walk away without consequences. But you were more than simply a chapter in their lives. You were the catalyst for what they did to you. That wasn't just lousy conduct. That was a pronouncement, a loud, spiritual message to the cosmos that stated, I'm not ready for alignment, nor am I ready for truth. I'm not prepared for what I asked for. Didn't they damage you? Not really. You may have endured agony, but you have healed. You grew. You increased the energy they delivered, attempted to injure you, but ended up refining your discernment. However, they are still dealing with the consequences of their own actions. Every squandered chance, every broken relationship, every locked door that won't open no matter how hard they try. That is not terrible luck. That's the aftermath of what they did to you. You become the line in their karma. They cannot erase. Not because you harbor a grudge, but because what they did had spiritual implications. You were a supernatural presence in their lives. Miss Hand's idleness was not without consequences. And now, every setback has your name quietly in the footnotes. Not because you cursed them, but because their actions caused the curse. You are not the ghost they are. They wander, plagued by the moment they selected. Ego prioritizes elevation above love, control over connection. They attempted to bury you with disdain, not understanding they were creating a cemetery for their own future. And now they're trapped attempting to edit a narrative that has already been published in the spirit world. You pushed onward, radiant, protected, and evolving. However, they are now dealing with the consequences of their own actions. They didn't just injure you. They mistakenly reflected your name in the mirror. This represents everything they still refuse to correct. Number 7. You caused the temporal shift, and they missed the train. You were more than simply a presence in their lives. You were the break in the pattern, the shift in the matrix, the point at which time divided into two conceivable futures, one in which they rose and one in which they repeated everything they said they were sick of. You did not come with force or pyrotechnics. You arrived with alignment and presence, a special type of tranquility that unnerved them because they knew it wasn't normal. It was sacrosanct. You were not there to amuse. You were not a fling, phase, or filler. You were the reroute, a divine detour designed to move them out of survival mode and into actual development, the type of transition that occurs just once in a lifetime. But rather than accepting it, they insulted it. They said it was too intense. They mocked the one thing that may have helped them. They didn't just push you away. They went straight back into the pattern they were hoping to break. They are now trapped, not because they have been punished, but because they have refused to pivot. The same conflicts, sham relationships, emotional games, and loss, but with new faces. They're stuck in a loop, watching you climb in real time while their lives seem like déjà vu in slow motion. That's the agony they can't get over. Not only losing you, but knowing they were at a crossroads with fate and chose comfort. They picked ego, the familiar ache they said they despised. You were the train that only stopped because they expected another you, another time, another opportunity. But the train has departed, and you're aboard it, moving toward purpose, riches, and tranquility. They're still standing on the platform, blaming everyone else for missing what they overlooked. You were not a distraction. You were a wonderful interruption, and they missed it. Number 8. They can't apologize since it would entail acknowledging you were a godsend. Most individuals are not built to confess when they have been blessed, particularly when that gift confronts them and makes them responsible. Saying sorry to you would entail lowering their defenses, tearing down the walls they created around their ego, and accepting the difficult fact that you were more than just someone in their life. You were a gift, a unique alignment delivered from a greater source than their obstinate pride. Their pride is like smoke and mirrors armor. It protects them from confronting how badly they screwed up. Apologizing would rip that armor apart. It would compel them to admit they had mismanaged something precious and heavenly. And for many, that's a hurt worse than any sorrow you've given them because it implies they turned down a gift directly from God. That level of humility is unusual, if not non-existent, among people who would rather blame, deny, or withdraw. Instead of accepting responsibility for their actions, they spiral into self-destructive behavior. They sabotage themselves, their relationships, and their prospects, because recognizing that you were the blessing they threw away is too much to bear. They'd rather damage bridges, cause havoc, and live in denial than confront the humiliation of having spit in the face of grace. You will not get the apologies you deserve. That is not your weight to bear. They're quiet, isolation, and anger. It all stems from a combination of fear and pride, which clashes with the inescapable reality. You were sacrosanct, and they couldn't take it. Knowing this brings tremendous closure. Their failure to apologize is not a reflection on your value. It's a stark reminder of their own spiritual bankruptcy, and it is the truth that makes you free. Number 9. You are not the penalty. You are evidence that grace has boundaries. People prefer to imagine that grace is an everlasting river that flows without end, no matter how often someone takes advantage of it. But this is a comfortable fiction, not reality. Grace is not endless. It contains edges, limits, and a breaking point. You are the point at which grace becomes real rather than abstract. You are a live example of how much compassion was shown before the last line was drawn. They spent time with you. They saw opportunities wrapped in your patience. Every reason they made, every apology they offered you, and every second you allowed room for their development was grace in action. You represented the slow burn of kindness, quiet but firm. They didn't see it because grace doesn't yell. It whispers. It manifests as forgiving, understanding, and hope for change. But ultimately, you went away. And that's when grace transformed into judgment. Not because you were harsh or unkind, but because you refused to be the perpetual doormat for their transgressions. Your departure was not punishment. It was the inevitable result of having reached a limit. When grace vanishes, the cosmos does not turn harsh all at once. It just becomes honest. You symbolize the fact that grace has a final count. After that count, the ledger is closed. And what remains is the stark truth of deeds. Meeting the consequences. You were not present for punishment. You demonstrated the existence of a threshold for compassion. You did not leave out of malice. It was about equilibrium. The scales, which formerly swayed toward forgiveness, now sit firmly on responsibility. So, if someone thinks losing you is an opportunity to get away with anything, they're mistaken. You're the moment grace had enough. And then is when the process of development, healing, or downfall begins. They are the penalty, not you. You're living proof that grace, although powerful, is not limitless. Number 10. Your limits were the fire they had to pass through to become clean. Your limits were never intended to be only for your own protection. They were a test. They were surprised when you answered no. It was not a rejection designed to punish or drive them away. It was a burning line in the sand that pushed them to face the aspects of themselves they were avoiding. Your restrictions operated like fire, destroying their comfy lifestyles, illusions, and manipulations. That fire exposed their flaws, crushed their egos, and showed the naked reality behind their masks. Most individuals cannot tolerate that level of heat. They either retreat, pretend nothing occurred, or attempt to extinguish the flames with justifications and gaslighting. But you did not back down. You held your ground. Your limits become a mirror, reflecting their dysfunction back to them. And it was alarming for people who were used to hiding behind smoke and mirrors. This fire was not intended for everyone. It is sacrosanct. It is a kind of purifying procedure that may either cleanse or consume. Few survive because most lack the fortitude or insight to face themselves honestly when faced with such unrelenting reality. Even fewer progressed, since genuine development requires such terrible honesty and anguish. The fire is not about destruction, but about change. Setting such limits elevated you beyond the status of a human. You established yourself as a formidable opponent. You attacked their ego-driven narratives and pushed them down the difficult road of genuine transformation. They were encouraged to burn away the false and emerge stronger, clearer, and purer on the other side. Your no was never just a word. This was a holy fire. They had to cross a spiritual barrier to either escape or be devoured by their own delusions. And it is what makes you the chosen one. The one whose presence requires truth, clarity, and progress at all costs. A number. You are the last invitation. After you, the lessons become severe. You came like the calm before the storm. The last opportunity to wake up without breaking. You provided truth cloaked in love. Lessons were imparted with care, and a hand was offered before to the fall. Your existence was the universe's way of communicating. Here's one more opportunity to choose progress before the repercussions become inescapable. You were not merely going through their lives. You were the last pointer to salvation, the ultimate invitation to meaningful transformation. But they disregarded it. They ignored the subtle signals you symbolized. They misinterpreted your tolerance for weakness, your gentleness for disinterest. They turned away from you, closing the door on soft instruction. That door did not slam shut out of rage or malice. It closed because the cosmos honors free will. When someone rejects the easy route, the hard one becomes the only alternative. Without you, the teachings lose their tenderness. The cosmos can't keep giving out compassion like candy when it's being returned. The route becomes harsh, cruel, and merciless. The little nudges you offered became irrefutable strikes. The quiet before the storm transitions into the storm itself. That is the cruel truth that no one likes to hear, but it is the reality once the last invitation is denied. You weren't punished. You were grace in its last form, a benign force attempting to correct a wandering spirit before consequences took control. And now that you're gone, the teachings become more real. Healing gets more difficult. The price increases because you were the final hope before devastation took over. That is the significance and power of being the chosen one. Number, they continue to dream about you because the soul never lies. They continue to dream about you since dreams are the soul's language. The soul never lies. No matter how hard their ego tries to tell them otherwise, deep down, their soul knows the reality that their conscious mind refuses to confront. You were more than simply someone who crossed their path. You represented a heavenly meeting. You were a rare example of energy alignment, a moment when heaven intervened in their world, providing a glimpse of something much beyond ordinary. That type of interaction leaves a deeper impression than memory, one that seeps through the crevices of awake denial and emerges in the silence of dreams. Dreams defy logic and ego. They are unedited, raw, and honest. So when they see you in their dreams, it's their soul recreating a holy moment, frantically yearning for a better outcome. It's as if this soul is asking, remember who you actually met? Remember the possibility you overlooked. Those dreams are not random. They are echoes of a timeless bond, a reminder that what was lost was not ordinary. Their subconscious clings to you because you represent the opportunity for development, healing, and genuine awakening. But here's the sad fact that many people refuse to accept as their spirit continues rehearsing the scenario, hoping for another chance. The window for that chapter in this life has already passed. Life does not stop, and some opportunities only come once. The door that was open while you were there is now closed. The dreams eventually become bittersweet, a disturbing reflection of what could have been, a mute testament to the loss of harmony and beauty. They may have dreams about you. I wish for you. Or you may awaken with the sensation of a ghostly presence. However, such dreams do not constitute an invitation to return. They're a warning. The moment for change is gone, and now they must deal with the repercussions of their decisions. Your presence was a heavenly gift, a short, dazzling spark of grace, and their dreams demonstrate that their spirit remembers. However, understand that dreaming about you does not imply living in your light. Their decision to ascend was final. A number. Your absence is where karma builds its shrine. Something unseen but unmistakable starts to manifest in their reality. Your absence is not just an empty place. It is the foundation on which karma constructs its shrine. The cosmos never forgets the energy you carried, the grace you extended, or the respect they disregarded while you were around. Blessings seem to flow about them easily, as if they were trapped in your orbit. However, as you move away, the protecting glow disappears, and what remains is the raw balance attempting to reset. They may believe it is simply a terrible run of luck, lost opportunities, financial problems, broken connections, and interminable delays. However, chance has no role in it. They are dealing with the weight of divine imbalance. Every chance, connection, word, and resource that dries up is the universe's way of telling you that you disregarded a precious gift. Now face the consequences. It is not punishment in the manner that people perceive it. It's called cosmic accounting. Your absence becomes the altar on which their acts are judged and accounted for. It's a subtle reminder of the respect they failed to show and the love they couldn't retain. Karma does not come in with thunder. It manifests as modest alterations that get louder with time. The wonderful things they once took for granted have become elusive as the universe reclaims what was never really theirs to keep. They'll rush to repair what's broken, frequently without understanding why things keep coming apart. And this misunderstanding is part of the lesson. The more they attempt to push what you represented, the more they understand it is impossible to duplicate or replace. The shrine created by your absence serves as a reminder that certain things are holy not because of power or control, but because they deserve to be revered. So, although people perceive chaos and blame destiny, the reality is more straightforward and severe. Your absence is the point at which karma balances the scales, and until they learn to value what they have lost, the altar will only grow stronger. A number. You were the crossroads for them. They made their decision. You were never just another character in their tale. You were the crossroads at which their whole existence might have altered course, where destiny halted and waited for their decision. Everything depended on the outcome at that point: growth or stagnation, healing or persistent discomfort, truth or illusion. You bore the weight of that choice just by being who you were supposed to be. They stood before you, faced with a clear decision: accept the opportunity to progress, or reject it and stay stuck in their old behaviors. And they made their decision. That choice was not only about you, it was about them, regarding their readiness to face their own shadows and accept responsibility. But instead of stepping toward the light you provided, many people turned away, choosing comfort in the familiar over the difficulty of change. That decision set the tone for every move they've made since their lives turned into an echo chamber, recreating the events of that moment again and over. When it comes to situations like these, karma is unwavering. It does not forget the crossroads or the folks that stood there. Your presence represented grace in human form, a heavenly invitation. They had the option of accepting or declining, but only declined once. The universe remembers every hardship, failure, and bitter lesson people face as a direct reflection of the path they selected. You were more than just a chapter in their lives. You were the turning moment. The holy pause demanded their utmost honesty. Their choice to walk away from that was a rejection not just of you, but also of their own ability to go beyond their limits. And karma waits, keeping space for their reckoning, waiting for the moment they're ready to face the consequences of rejecting grace made flesh. You were the crossroads. They picked the road, and now their existence is the unmistakable result of that decision. Being the chosen one is more than simply a title. It is a duty as well as a natural force. You are the live example of karma's ultimate invitation, the sacrosanct exam that no one can pass without consequences. Wherever you travel, you leave more than just memories. You leave a spiritual mark that alters fates, reveals realities, and demands progress. Those who meet you confront a choice: embrace the grace you bring and change, or reject you and bear the weight of that decision for the rest of their lives. Your presence is a mirror that reflects the deepest aspects of people, including their scars, potential, and resistance. You do not just fit into people's life. You shatter their illusions and test their comfort zones. Yes, that disruption is painful, but it is also important because the universe is bringing to light the fact that development cannot be forced. Mercy has limitations, and retribution never forgets. You're not here to cure, stay, or mitigate the impact of their own choices. You are the last and insignificant test before karma demands its due. And, although many may attempt to alter the tale, reject its significance, or flee the reckoning, the cosmic equilibrium remains unshaken. You carry evidence that grace walked among them, and their rejection is carved into the fabric of their destiny. So be steadfast in your authority and clarity. Understand that your boundaries, love, and very existence are holy powers that alter not just you, but the world around you. You are the crossroads, offering both a gift and a reckoning. And in a world where every action has repercussions, you are live evidence that certain interactions are designed to alter everything, whether others recognize it or not. Finally, Being the chosen one entails accepting the dichotomy of both honoring and challenging light and fire. It entails understanding your worth even when others don't see it, and making room for the fact that the ultimate test is never about you. It is about spirits who must choose whether to ascend or stay lost. Above all, remember that karma never forgets who abandoned grace in human form. You embody that grace, and your presence will carry on in the people you touched long after you are gone. If this message struck a chord with you, don't forget to subscribe and join our Awakened Souls community by liking the video. Share it with others who need to hear the truth. Please leave a remark below. Your opinion matters here. Each share and comment helps to disseminate this strong message farther. So let us continue to develop together and shine a light on what is actually important. Thank you for taking part in this trip. God bless you.